In this video, we're going to look at allocating scarce resources. There are different ways of dividing up things, dividing up resources or access to goods and services. And the method of allocation might depend on the type of resource you're trying to allocate. For example, consider the different types of goods: private goods, public goods, common goods, and club goods. Each one of them might have a different method of allocating. Now, which method is the best for dividing those up? Well, it depends. It depends on the type of good. Different ways of doing it. For one, competition. You can have people compete using the price system for access to different goods and services. Queuing. You could just get people to line up and hand things out. Chance is another one. Lottery. People could enter their names and a name could be drawn and that person could get access to the good or service. Central planning, and this is typically referring to some kind of allocation system that's run by the government or other central authority. It might involve rationing, giving people equal amounts of something, expert allocation, something like need-based or meritocratic allocation, giving things to people that need it or are deserving of it, and then universal provision, making sure everybody gets access to things. You'll use different types of allocation systems depending on the type of good. For example, let's think of something like Junior Whoppers, my favorite good. There's lots of different ways these could be allocated. Burger King could hold lotteries to give out Junior Whoppers. They could be provided universally by the government, but that's not what we do. For private goods, like Junior Whoppers, the price system is typically used. People can buy them if they want. Firms can compete to sell them to consumers. They can compete over price and quality, and that's a system that has proven effective for distributing hamburgers. What about things like clean water and plumbing and sanitation? These things are a little different. It would be hard to use a purely competitive price system to try and allocate running water and indoor plumbing. A public good like clean water is typically allocated using universal provision. Municipal governments will provide clean drinking water and indoor plumbing and sanitation. So that is considered a public good that is universally provided. Two different systems for two different goods. Now, what about some of those other strategies? Do we line up for anything? Do we queue up for anything on a first come, first served basis? Well, there's plenty of things that we do that to. Access to certain services. This is an example of the Cameron campout that happens when Duke and North Carolina play basketball against each other. There is a lineup for the student tickets, and students, because this is the method of allocation, will camp out for weeks in advance to get access to the tickets. So they could be allocated using different methods, such as lottery, but they do it by a lineup. You just line up, wait, first person gets the first tickets, and so on. Other examples. Lottery, do we do anything with lottery? Well, immigration sometimes uses a lottery component. When different countries are allocating visas to things like maybe family members or a certain educated class of professionals, those are sometimes assigned by lottery. What about things like healthcare? How do we distribute healthcare? Well, there's different mechanisms for controlling access to healthcare. In some aspects, there's universal provision. In a country like Canada, many aspects of healthcare are delivered universally. Others are rationed. There might only be certain amounts of things that people can get access to, only a certain number of procedures that might be funded by the government each year. And of course, other aspects of healthcare are done through the price system. Some drugs, some dental services, and paramedical services like massage are all done through the price system. So just to recap, there are different ways of allocating scarce resources. Use different methods for different types of goods. Typically for private goods, we use the price system. We let people choose whether they want to buy Junior Whoppers or not. Firms compete to try and sell the most Junior Whoppers. Public goods, typically we rely on government provision. There are some characteristics of public goods that make them subject to things like free rider problems, and they aren't really fit for the price system. For those, we tend to use government provision.